These are the people who undermine you when you're not looking. They're the ones who organize coups. And if you allow a Category 3 to stick around for more than about 90 days, they will infiltrate some people in your organization, share their mindset, tell little white lies to separate your team from you, and create chaos in the org.
That is absolutely a real thing. On my side of things, the obvious was the internal and external coup, also known as, I just refer to it as a hostile takeover. I don't usually use the word coup for a good reason, because usually that's governmental level things. But that was also the underlying evidence was also there as well. So at least domestically in the United States. So those became real factors. What I'm getting at here is that even from Hollywood has hyped up and made a pseudo representation of more or less what happened with Brian 2006, from 2006 through pretty much the Obama administration, mostly. And we're still dealing with the after effects of it right now. Two notable movies. One was The Accountant, and the other was the scene from Sicario where a lawyer approaches a guy's, some person or representative or drug dealer or something of that nature. Again, pseudo representation on Brian's situation. Okay, all it comes down to is, keep in mind that the Obama administration was more or less, and all things leading up to it, were all things law-based, jurist law-based, more or less. Okay, Brian doesn't come from jurist law, by the way, historically, all the way from Walter Wisha to Richard Wisha to now Brian. Okay, so hyped up, and they turned it into more or less almost a horror story, or some sort of symbolic, heroic story on the lawyer side of things, when the reality was it was hyped up to begin with. Okay, all it is, like in the case of a lawyer going after whatever party it was in those cases, what it really was, okay, is an attempt at hostile takeover. Okay, that's the underlying story with Brian. In both of those scenes, both The Accountant and Sicario, the movies, okay, were more or less the same theme, okay, but they were used as a tool of hostile takeover. So in addition to the lawyers, you had the media-driven campaigns around that. Oh my God, you're such a bad person. No, fuck you. Okay, we were a business, we were a family office and a business like anybody else. Okay, so it's an attempt. And by the way, this brings up an important factor with regards to asset protection, things of that nature. And one of the laughable things is, as an example, during the hostile takeover, especially we'll call it the second hostile takeover in 2009 technically, when Brian was in Marquette, Michigan. Okay, so Brian went from basically Detroit, to Marquette, Michigan for university years, and then parties from Chicago attempted to more or less infiltrate Brian's environment and separate and isolate Brian's Gas Girl 87 from him, his holdings, more or less. Okay, so you had this enormous kind of like a parabolic arc or a hurdle of some sorts, but not really. When you draw it out on a global map, it actually represents, if you put it into a sine wave, okay, which is kind of funny that Brian's capital company is called SINDOT. If you mispronounce it, it looks like a sine dot, but it represents an artistic infinity symbol, meaning that was the small part of an infinity symbol, whereas the giant infinity represented all the way from Detroit going to the right, not to the left, okay, to the right, for a good reason, because it represents the entire global perspective, meaning it went from Detroit all the way over the Atlantic, all the way down and back around to that concentric point, whatever. If you can draw that, if you know how to draw that. Anyways, that's a a perspective on things.